All right. I'm going to do just a small review of Rom Will's book, The Field Master, that magnificent bastard, Rom Wills. And yes, Rommel, you magnificent bastard, I read your book. But he has a book called Finding the Right Man that's actually written for women. It's a little small book, but the thing is, Rom comes from the old school where the books were small, but they weren't full of fluff. A lot of times we get black writers nowadays that will take a small book and expand it out into a 300-page book instead of giving just a small book that will help people that's full of nothing but meat. In other words, there's no bones, there's no fat, it's all meat. And Rom is from the old school. He writes from the fact that I'm not going to waste your time with bloviating. I'm going to give you the hardcore facts and what you need to know for a small price. Because back then, black writers, hey, you couldn't afford time was money and also paper was money. And to have a 300-page book, you didn't have a lot of money. So basically, you had to condense your message inside of fewer words. And Rom comes from that school. So needless to say, his book, Finding the Right Man, is full of just nothing but gems. It's nothing but meat. So the first two chapters are killer because it's absolutely basic wisdom that every woman should know and every man should know, because the flip side is true. The flip side is true. Every woman should know this already. But like when you watch the NBA basketball, right? They're pros that have been in the league 5, 6, 7 years that fail to do the basics, that fail to get their steps right on a layup, that fail to protect or shorten their dribble, that fail to play defense properly. You find some pros that can't shoot free throws properly. And those are basics that they teach you when you're 5 and 6 years old. So the fundamentals are the fundamentals and they never change. And what Rom is giving in the first two sections of his book is just lays out the fundamentals that if you don't get those two, the rest of the book doesn't matter. And the first two fundamentals that he actually had, because we were actually talking about this on Nyla Says' Hangout, maybe like a week or so ago, about good men and finding the right man and the discussion about what a good man actually is. And when you talk to 3 or 4 women, they all had a different variation of what a good man was. Like I always said, they always leave out that little bitty part, the part that they don't want to tell. But the first part of what Rom was saying is that in finding the right man, the first thing women have to realize, that most men do realize, is that the women choose. And I've heard that from an old dude that's been married all the way down, all the way up to a pimp. A pimp never says that he chooses a woman. Pimp always says is that the woman chooses him. And that is the basic level. That's what every man should know. That's what Rom is telling. Rom is telling ladies what the players and the pimps have always said. Women choose. It's always a woman's choice. In the animal kingdom, the female chooses. Default's law is based on women or the female choosing. She has to choose you as a mate. She has to choose you as her man. And Rom is condensing that knowledge down to the basics. And Rom says basically, he says all ladies have to realize they have power. In my observation, there are 3 types of women. I wholeheartedly agree with this. Those who realize they choose the men and act accordingly. In other words, they take responsibility for their choice and they're very careful about the man that they choose. Those who realize that they choose but pretend like they don't. We see way too many of these women online. These are the smart women that are out there, especially on YouTube, saying there are no good men or there are too few good men, and that there's a lot of bad men running around getting women pregnant and abandoning them. And they don't take responsibility for choosing that man. And so these are the second type, those that know that they choose. And a lot of these women that come on YouTube saying this kind of stuff about women, about men and women, and how black men get women pregnant and abandon them. leave that part out that the women do choose. They always try to pretend that they're just actors that have no agency, which is what pisses most guys off. And the third type are the truly, are the ones that are truly clueless. Those that don't have any idea about the power they possess. Normally, those are very young women that get caught up very early. Unfortunately, the ones that know their power and act accordingly are very few. There's not enough of them. Those are what most men consider good women. And those are the women that find men and never have problems with them because they take responsibility for their choice and they use their powers wisely. And the latter, the other two are the ones that have a lot of problems with men because they pretend like they don't have any choice or any kind of agency, or they actually really don't or haven't learned that they have agency. And the latter two, which make up the bulk of women, black women particularly, are the ones that cause the problems. And a lot of these women don't get to the former, which is the ones that realize their power and act accordingly, until basically they're beyond their fertile years when they get 40. And unfortunately, a lot of the older women that already know this don't come back down like they used to and tell the young girls, like when they're 13, 14, 15, about their power and their power to choose. They also don't tell the boys, because a lot of women don't want to admit to men that they have the power to choose, because men would by themselves will start making different choices and operating differently. Anyway, the second part that Rahm has of the book, which is part of the basics. So, I mean, this is basics for men and women, but especially the women that deny this, is self-examination, which is very difficult for women. Women are always protected from self-examination. I mean, sometimes they look in the mirror and they have this discussion with the mirror about reality. They have been allowed to bend their own reality to suit what's in their head, instead of like boys. Boys don't get to do that. Boys, from the time they're 3 or 4 years old, you don't get to bend reality, because you get the crap beat out of you by bending reality. Women are protected from that. So while self-examination is a lot easier for men than it is for women, women struggle with self-examination, but that is the most important part. To thine own self be true. Rahm says, before a woman sets out to find the right man, she has to work on herself. Get that? He gives an example about Gina and Dexter. Gina thinks Gina has found her dream guy, her perfect man. She forgets about the other coin, the other side of the coin. She has chosen Dexter, but she forgets that Dexter has to accept her choice or acknowledge her choice. Just because you said you want to hire somebody, that person doesn't have to work for you. A lot of women forget that. I was just talking to, chatting in one of Angry Man's hangouts, and I was going back and forth. I don't think the woman was a troll, but she got upset about something that I said. And when we went back and forth, she said that she would never have sex with me, inferring that she would never choose me. And I told her that she wasn't on the accepted list. In other words, I would never work for her. And she said that I wouldn't say that in real time. And I said, I don't have sex with women I don't like. And I said something to her. I said something to her in the chat that she bounced after I said it. And I said, why do black women think that they have Willy Wonka's golden ticket between their legs? Your vagina does not give you a pass. The man still has to accept what's around that vagina. And if you are not it, he's not going to accept your invitation. It's like you cannot, he cannot make you choose. You cannot make him accept your choice. You have to be what he wants, just like he has to be what you want. It's a two-way street. I always tell a man to pick the right woman, he has to know himself. He has to know what his purpose is. He has to know what he wants. Same thing with a woman. She has to do a lot of self-examination. She has to know what she wants, who she is, and what she has. A lot of black women do not realize, or they won't admit to themselves, that they might not be a good fit for the man that they like. And that's where self-examination comes in. Women are allowed to choose. They're allowed to judge. That is the first half. And that's an awesome responsibility. Even though they try to shirk it or try to pretend that they don't judge, they don't choose, until you actually pin them down about their choice, about what is a good man. What kind of man do you choose? And a lot of times when you pin them down, and basically every dating coach or every dating, advisor actually said that. You pin down a good man and come up with all the qualities. That is half the ledger. But the thing is, on the other half of the ledger, you have to look at your qualities. Do you have enough to attract that guy that you have chosen? Are your standards higher for that dude than they are for yourself? And that's a lot of what Rahm is trying to say. There's two parts. You have the power to choose that you have to take a responsibility for, and far too many women do not. They will chase that dude down, choose that dude, get pregnant by that dude, and then get mad about the result. And a lot of women will do that over and over and over again. Or if they don't do it over and over again, they spend their whole life trying to make that dude conform, their choice conform to what they believe is their reality. When the problem is not that guy, the problem is them. And far too many women do not do a complete self-examination. It's far too easy to cast a blame onto the men. Far too many black women do that and don't accept the responsibility. So basically, there's two things in this that women do not do: accept their responsibility for their choice and delve into real, I'm not talking about pretend, real self-examination. Makeup, weave, and butt implants are not self-examination. It's not dealing with reality, not dealing with your attitude and your disposition. Is not accepting reality. And pretending or trying to mold yourself so that man will accept you and basically being disingenuous with him, that works for 6 months while you got him. 6 months later, guess what? That shit don't work. And it shows up in your attitude. And what women believe is that men can't see it, or men are too stupid to see it. And sometimes men are going to have to start calling women out on their bullshit. But anyway, this is a short promo for Rahm's book, and also to let everybody know that Rahm, the Field Master, will be on BGS for Women on Friday, November 9th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, or 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll be talking not only about everything under the sun, but also about Rahm's book. So if you haven't read it or you haven't seen it, even though it's written for women, men can get tons of game out of that. And in women, if you haven't read it, it's a small book. It's not very expensive. But the thing is, it is a book full of gems. If you just take the first two sections and apply it, I guarantee you 90% of your problems with men will go away. 90% of your problems will go away. You will be able to assess not only who you are, but what kind of man will suit you. Like it's always said, the answer is simple. The application is where it's hard. It's that way in sports. It's also that way in life. But with that, I'm going to jump off here. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.